Hello, everyone. Um, Welcome back to Deep Tech Forum. And our next speaker is Vishal Shetty. He is the head of quantum wheel creation from SIA Partner. Vishal, where are you now?
I am in London. It appears as though I am in
I thought you're
Esquimalt, but I am in
yeah,
London.
you're in Switzerland or something. Nice
Yeah,
place. Without further ado, do you want to share some PowerPoints, or do you want to, speak to us
sure,
about
absolutely,
what you do?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, Rico, thanks so much for having me. It's
my
such a
pleasure.
pleasure to be speaking at this forum. So, good morning, afternoon, or evening to everyone wherever you are. Today, I'll be talking about the potential of quantum technologies in life sciences and healthcare, and with a particular focus on what can be done in sort of the medium term, near to medium term, as well as a view of what's possible in the long term. So I'm just about to share my screen. Hopefully you should be able to all see that.
Yep, looks good.
Excellent. Great. So just a little bit about us. So I lead the quantum lab at SIA Partners. At SIA Partners, we've been in the quantum space for about 2 to 3 years, coming up to 3 years shortly, actually, in the spring. And we have actually been launching and working with a lot of early stage quantum technologies in this space. So in particular, we essentially sit in between corporates and technology firms. So we've been working with quite a broad range of quantum technology firms and really taking their capabilities, early stage quantum capabilities, as well as their planned future capabilities, and helping them develop real world applications of it in various industries, from financial services to healthcare, life sciences, manufacturing, and the list goes on, automotive, defense, etc. So in today, I think we'd really like to focus on the healthcare and life sciences piece, in which we've actually worked in quite a few different spaces and launched quite a few different ventures. So we worked across, in different geographies as well. So in Europe, in North America, and so on. And the technology firms that we've worked with to kind of bring these ventures to life are also kind of spread out across different regions. Some of them are, Japanese headquartered, some of them are US headquartered, some of them are based in Europe. So we work with these firms to kind of bring these things to life. So first question that you may ask if you're coming from a life sciences background or a healthcare background is, why do I need quantum? What's the use of this this sort of new fancy technology in healthcare and life sciences? Well, essentially, we like to think of comparing quantum computing to even the most powerful supercomputers of today, like comparing a bicycle to a jet plane. So, some people say quantum computers are exponentially more powerful. Yes, a jet plane is exponentially more powerful than a bicycle, but it's for different purposes, right? So it's for solving use cases or solving problems that couldn't be solved before, that can be solved now, but it's also not the one panacea, one answer to all questions that may exist. So carrying that analogy forward, if you just want to go to the corner shop, you wouldn't take a jet plane to the corner shop. But if you need to go to another country, a jet plane is the answer. So it's that horses for courses piece, right? It's never going to, or very unlikely, it's going to replace your mobile phone in any way, at least in our lifetimes. So Mark gave a great presentation talking about kind of the era of quantum computing and how you start from the noisy intermediate scale quantum computers, the NISQ computers, and then you move on to fault tolerant and so on. So in fact, the 3 stages you see on the right are quite common and quite popular, which is starting from the noisy intermediate scale, which is early stage quantum computers that can solve small problems with limited success, and there's high error rates and high issues with scaling it. Then you reach the era of quantum advantage, when you can prove superior performance in certain tasks using quantum computing, right? True quantum computing. And then you get full-scale fault tolerance, which is universal fault-tolerant quantum computers, which are able to solve completely intractable problems. But we also have a view of quantum computing on this left-hand side that you can see over there, which is quantum-inspired simulation and hybrid. So we see this as kind of the journey to true quantum computing. And what's really exciting about this left-hand side space is that using these techniques, these software and hardware techniques, you can enable a polynomial, perhaps a quadratic speed up in the right use cases. So again, if you've got the right use case with the right issues, the right parameters, you can significantly outperform classical computing using quantum hybrid approaches or simulation approaches today. And that's what we've been doing. We've really been taking some of these early stage technologies, which you can see on the left there, and applying them at scale, particularly in healthcare and life sciences and so on. And I'll get into some of the specifics of what we've done in this space. So this is very quickly just a view of what we see as the landscape. So as I indicated earlier, we see the transition to quantum computing as being non-binary. We see a lot of hybrid, a lot of early stage kind of digital annealing, NISQ and hybrid technologies that can create a lot of advantage today, which are brought to life by multiple players that you can see. And then this is kind of the journey to true state quantum computing, which we believe is about 5 years away, maybe as far as 10 years away, such that it can solve real world problems at scale. Now, what are the types of problems that quantum computing can address? Essentially, they can be categorized in these 5 categories that you can see here. Optimization, sampling, simulation, machine learning, and cryptography. Of these, we see the optimization problems as the most mature, and in particular, using the early stage quantum-inspired simulation and hybrid technologies, you can solve some optimization problems with greater precision and greater scale than possible with classical computing, which is truly exciting. And we'll go into kind of a view of where this is manifested or where this comes to life in the world of healthcare. So just thinking about the problems in a slightly different context, you have 3 categories of problems that can be addressed with quantum computing. Problems that you can just about solve today, but non-optimally or not in a timely manner. So you get to an answer, but it's not the best answer, and you want to get a better answer in a reasonably timely manner. Problems that you can't solve today. And you can't solve today given current limitations, but if you could solve that, those would be incredible. And then the third one is problems you don't even know you could solve, but they are the holy grail of problems, and they'll be truly game-changing when they manifest themselves. So the third scale is kind of again, like Mark was saying, thinking about Amazon or Facebook in the early days of the internet. So those in the early days in the internet when universities were just about sending messages to each other, and you're here thinking about Amazon and Facebook, and that's kind of the third scale, which is as these things mature, there will be even more use cases that are brought to life that we can help to address. And just quickly, in terms of the characteristics of some of these, they need to be large scale. These are the kind of the best problems that we want to address with quantum computing, such that it can create a lot of value for us, right? So these are typically large scale, non-convex, non-linear problems with lots of uncertainty in the answers, with issues around frequency and issues with duration. Right. So given that view on kind of what's possible with quantum computing and what's possible today, why don't we dive into specifically for healthcare and life sciences, what are the applications of this? So I'll give you guys an overview of a broad landscape, and then we can go into some specific, one specific project that we've worked on. But we can, happy to take questions, Rico, about some of the other areas as well.
Yes, because one of the things that I discussed with Vishal is that we want to know what's the tech, obviously, but also how to apply the tech, the quantum computing into our daily life. And we would like to see some real examples from SIA partners, and I'm glad Vishal is going to share with us about it in the healthcare and life sciences sector. Go for it, Vishal.
Fantastic. So in healthcare and life sciences, really they can be classified in these 3 categories. You don't have to read all of it, and I'll talk through some of this stuff, but And this, I must say, this list is non-exhaustive in many ways, right? This is a starter, a view, but it is by no means complete. Right. So starting off from the right-hand side, looking at R&D and drug discovery, right? So in this space, you can start off by looking at things around biomarker discovery. So in biomarker discovery, there are machine learning techniques that exist today to help identification of biomarkers that have certain limitations, particularly around the amount of data that's required and the speed and precision with which training models need to be run. Now, these limitations can be addressed with machine learning techniques using quantum computing approaches. As I was saying earlier, this is probably something that's maybe not an immediate application, because it'll take a little bit of development of hardware, development of algorithms and scale to apply that. So that's exciting, but not right now.
When you foresee this happening, like maybe 3 to 5 years from now, is it possible?
Yeah, that's about a reasonable time frame. About 3 to 5 years is a reasonable time frame. Maybe even shorter, depending on how quickly how quickly the promises made about hardware development come to life. So yeah. But one area where we've actually done some work and we've got some really exciting results is in the de novo drug design space. Now, this is a particularly interesting concept, right? So here, if you remember, we were talking about optimization as the area where there's greatest potential today. So what we've done is we framed the drug design problem as an optimization problem in many ways. So if you're given a particular protein target, and if you're given a set of molecular libraries or libraries of molecular fragments, this solution is able to find the optimal combination of those fragments such that it can address the protein. So in other words, it can design a drug for you given a particular disease target that it's going for, right? And now it doesn't come up. So what the advantages of using this approach is that, firstly, it's able to look at a much wider range of molecular fragments, so much larger range of molecules than possible with current approaches. So we're talking about a big difference. We're talking about currently, at best, you can maybe look at between 10 and 100 million potential molecules and try and find combinations using current techniques that exist. But using the drug design platform that we've developed, you can look at over 2 billion. So it's a big difference.
There's a huge gap.
Sorry?
Yeah, there's a huge gap.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge difference in terms of...
By the data size, it is really creating a huge gap. So does it mean that instantly the machine learning will be able to tell the scientist or the researcher what is the molecular structure and what is the recommendation for that particular person?
So it's not on precision medicine. This is not the precision medicine piece. This is for a target, right? Like, so this is for design of a new drug. Yeah. What it will do is that the algorithm will basically, based on the optimization search, find a subset of a couple of hundred, which are the highest likelihood of meeting all the criteria that's required for the design of a new drug. It will across many billions of combinations, it'll find the optimal.
So you run the simulation even faster and get the answers correctly.
Exactly.
And by deduction, you will actually get the drug formula more faster.
Exactly.
And at a cheaper cost in a way.
Yeah. In fact, that kind of computer-aided sort of preclinical phase in the drug development cycle is now being compressed from 3 years to 8 months. Which is hugely exciting.
Right,
from
amazing.
Target discovery to lead optimization.
So how has any of this, from your knowledge and experience, have any of this global vaccine pharma group are using this sort of technology existingly?
Yeah, so as I said, we've applied this. We did a proof of concept on dengue fever, and the results were quite positive. And then it's now been contracted with a particular pharma. It's confidential which pharma group it is, but a particular pharma group has contracted the solution. and they're now applying it for other targets as well, which is exciting. Yeah,
that's very exciting. Yeah.
I'll just jump into a couple of others. So protein structure prediction, which is, so given the amino acid sequence of a particular protein, trying to predict what the structure of that molecule will be. And that's something that a lot of people have been trying to do. So Google has tried to do that with their quantum solution, and I think maybe IBM has tried to do that, and others have tried to do that as well. I mean, we tend to stay away from that because I think we see that as more of a theoretical exercise, because you can always crystallize a protein in real life. So that's that we see is kind of less of an exciting space, but it's one that people are looking to create some solutions for.
Could we jump into the pandemic management and vaccine distribution, because that would be particularly interesting for the current.
Super exciting, super interesting. So pandemic management is we've developed some models and some thoughts around how you can in the next pandemic, how you can manage.
There's one coming soon.
hopefully not in our lifetime. So, but in case it does,
we should be able to prevent it before you even came.
Exactly. So, that's around. There's a few different aspects to that, right? So, pandemic management has been about different aspects of what do you take into consideration when you lock down a country? How do you lock down a country across different regions, across different professions, across different kind of social interactions, such that you have the minimum economic impact and the maximum sort of epidemiological impact on reducing the spread of the virus. So we've sort of developed a high-level model, which we've engaged some governments on exploring this further and taking this to life. And vaccine distribution, again, is similar, right? The vaccine distribution is more of a supply chain and optimization challenge, but that's quite similar. In fact, just on the healthcare space, operations and kind of productivity of healthcare is hugely important, because healthcare systems pretty much all over the world are overburdened, right? I think without exception, pretty much there's more demand than there is supply. And really through these optimization techniques, you can have a greater supply with the same number of resources effectively, by improving schedules, improving logistics, improving inventory, etc. So we're doing this specific thing in a few US and Canadian hospitals, where we are increasing the throughput of patients for procedures, for diagnostic appointments, for outpatient appointments, for a whole range of things, which is reducing kind of waiting times and reducing COVID related challenges. So yeah. It's as I was saying, quite an exciting world that exists out there in terms of what's possible in healthcare and things. But just in summary, I'd say the challenges related to optimization are the ones that we can look to address in the nearer term. So logistics, operations, supply chain, definitely very much optimization related. We can address these in the near term. Some of those that involve machine learning and sampling simulation, probably a bit harder to do in the near term, but there can be some progress made. And that's just like the takeaway message that I'd say.
So I would like to ask if quantum computing's qubits speed can go up to say 1,000 in 2 years' time, which I think the whole industry in the quantum sector is very confident that we can achieve that.
Yeah.
By hardware, I think it's not an issue at all. So how would this change the impact on the healthcare sector? Does it mean that a lot of diseases, a lot of drugs will be coming out faster? A lot of, I can see that you have a personalization and precision medicine as well as surgical planning.
Yes.
In terms of treatment
absolutely
approach, cancer radiation sort of therapy as well, that could actually change the way we look at the medical industry. Totally.
Absolutely. In fact, a lot of this challenge is happening now, right? Like, so the ones that you mentioned, those are projects we're working on now. The precision medicine one and cancer radiation, we're working on these projects now with with different with different hospitals and things. Hugely possible to do, to improve over what's possible today. As I said, some of these around precision medicine, around optimization, you can do that now. Around cancer radiation, you can do that now as well, in terms of making it more precision, more precise kind of target and so on.
We're just looking at from a double-edged sword or devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Like, what sort of job would the quantum computing remove in the particular sector when this becomes realistic, and what sort of job would it create?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, right? Because there's a lot of resistance, to be honest, from
obviously
from medical professionals, right? So
of course,
a medical professional saying, telling them that we are able to assess a greater number of variables and greater number of complexities than a human mind can in many ways, and give an answer in terms of the precision plan for a particular patient. It's a tough challenge. It's a tough challenge because there's, the doctor thinks that they've worked in this field for 10 years, 20 years, they've trained for so long, et cetera, et cetera. How can a machine be better than me? So that cultural shift is a hard one for...
Does it mean that the new age doctors, they are well trained now, they back in the uni days now, or the next few years, they have been trained how to use quantum computing knowledge?
Yeah. I think that's
in terms of
right.
Applying that knowledge into treatment and using a softwares and simulators and programs, that will be able to do a lot more than the traditional doctors that was trained in the old days, old system. How are they to bridge the gap, and how can the existing doctors, medical practitioners, to be upgraded? I think that again is another challenge in the whole industry.
I agree. I think those that are resistant to change, those that are resistant to new technologies will be left behind, right? Like they will be, maybe not today, but in 5 years or 10 years, they will be left behind. So I think it's important for everyone to kind of look to embrace new, be exploratory and be open to looking at new approaches. It may not feel comfortable. It may not feel, like business as usual, life as usual, but change is especially in this space, change is good in terms of bringing new possibilities forward. So it's kind of the education that needs to happen in this space, but at the same time, I guess the proof points need to be delivered as well to help convince some of the skeptics about what's possible and what's real, and why you should listen to what a computer, quantum or otherwise, is telling you to do.
So before we wrap up in a couple of minutes, just a quick question on what is your advice on the life science and healthcare sector, and how would they upgrade themselves before the next 2 to 3 years time? Obviously, a lot of changes will be disrupting their industry. What should they be doing now to get ready for it?
I think, especially with quantum computing, right? Don't ignore it. Like, don't think that this is something that's like esoteric, that's hypothetical, that'll take a long time to mature. You need to be paying attention to this now. You need to be acting on this now. Come and speak to us, come and speak to others, and work on, the biggest problems that you wish you could solve. We can help you solve together. So, let's work on these challenges together to bring these possibilities to life. Don't be resistant, or don't be ignorant of these new developments. That would be the biggest 2 cents, I would say.
All right. Thank you very much, Vishal, for joining us today. And I look forward to catching up with you, and we'll hope to see much more updates and advancement in your sector, in the quantum side, or application of quantum computing and sciences into other industry as well. And thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Rico. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure. Well, so next, we'll be coming back with the next speaker. We'll be back shortly in a couple of minutes. Thank you.